People love to talk about the grind. Like, this has to be hard all the time. And sure, some parts of selling will always take work. But the longer I do this, the more I realize something uncomfortable. A lot of the grind isn't the hobby, it's us. It's the habits we've stacked on top of it, the pressure we don't question, the things we keep doing just because we've always done them. So today, I want to talk about something different. Not what I'd add to the business, but what I'd stop doing if I wanted this to feel easier. This is my so-called card life, where we talk about the hobby, the business, and everything in between. Welcome to my so-called card life, an inside look at the life of a low-end card reseller, brought to you by JC3 Cards and Collectibles, a premier reseller of trading cards available today on eBay, Collects, and whatnot. Whether you're looking to fill out that new set or just rekindle memories with one of your favorite players from your favorite teams, let JC3 Cards and Collectibles help you find that card you're looking for and provide fast, secure delivery straight to your door. You know what's really interesting? Most of the friction in this hobby didn't show up all at once. It crept in slowly. One extra habit here, one more thing to stay on top of there, and none of it felt wrong in the moment. It felt responsible. Checking stats more often, tweaking prices just in case, holding on to inventory a little longer than planned, or saying yes to tools, features, or processes because that's what serious sellers do. Over time, all of that just becomes background noise. And that's the problem. Because once friction becomes normal, you stop questioning it. You assume the stress is part of the deal, that the grind is proof that you're doing it right. But here's the thing I've learned the hard way. Just because something is common doesn't mean it's necessary. A lot of sellers aren't overwhelmed because the hobby is too demanding. They're overwhelmed because they've layered expectations on top of expectations without ever stopping to ask if those layers are still helping. We normalize always being quote unquote on, always reacting, always adjusting, always chasing the next little improvement. And eventually, the business stops feeling like something you run and starts feeling like something that runs you. What makes this tricky is that none of this looks like a mistake. It looks like commitment. It looks like discipline. And it looks like just work ethic. But commitment without boundaries quietly turns into friction. And friction, over time, turns into exhaustion. So when I say make this feel easier, I'm not talking about shortcuts. What I'm really talking about is identifying the things we've accepted as normal that maybe shouldn't be normal any longer. I want to pause on that word for a second. The word easier. Because I think it makes a lot of people a little bit uncomfortable. For some reason in this hobby, easier sounds a little like lazy, like cutting corners, or maybe like you're not serious enough. And I don't think that's fair. When I say I want this to feel easier, I'm not saying I want it to feel effortless. I'm saying I want it to feel sustainable. That's a big difference. There's a big difference between hard work and unnecessary friction. Hard work is unavoidable. Friction is optional. If the word easier feels wrong to you, simply swap it out. Instead, call it cleaner or calmer, maybe more intentional or less noisy or more sustainable. Pick the word that lets you breathe when you think about it. We're often solving the wrong problem. We try to make ourselves tougher when we should be making the system quieter. Quieter systems ask fewer emotional questions. They leave more room to think instead of react. And that doesn't make you less committed. It makes you more effective. If something consistently feels harder over time, not more complex, but more exhausting, that's not a badge of honor. That's a signal. And listening to that signal isn't a weakness. Instead, it's experience. The first thing I'd stop doing is over checking everything: stats, dashboards, watchers, views, comparing yesterday to today, and today till last week. We stare at numbers that don't actually ask anything of us. And here's the uncomfortable truth: the most common answer to a lot of seller questions is simply this: it really doesn't matter. 3 watchers or 5, it doesn't matter. Views dipped yesterday? It doesn't matter. Someone sold the same card for $2 less? Most of the time, it doesn't matter. We treat every data point like a decision point, like we need to respond. But if checking doesn't lead to a clear action, it's not management. It's simply noise. Checking doesn't create control. It creates anxiety. Good systems don't need constant supervision. They need trust. Trust that cards will sell when they sell. Trust that prices don't need daily babysitting. Trust that one quiet day doesn't mean something is broken. Because sometimes the healthiest move is to close the dashboard and let time do what time does. The second thing that I'd stop doing is holding inventory just to feel safe. And this one is pretty sneaky because it doesn't look wrong. It looks like patience. It looks like discipline. And it looks like being careful. But sometimes it's just fear wearing a responsible outfit. We tell ourselves, oh, I'll wait until the market comes back, or I don't want to give it away, or maybe I might regret selling it too cheap. And inventory slowly becomes emotional insurance. Inventory you're afraid to price honestly is already costing you something. It's taking up space, mental energy, and quietly asking you to defend it every time you scroll past. Holding something because you believe in it is one thing, but holding it because selling feels uncomfortable is a whole other thing. Some cards don't need to be wins. They just need to be done. Letting something go, even below your original hope, can be a major relief because once it's gone, so is the pressure that came with it. The third thing that I'd stop doing is measuring myself against sellers in completely different stages. A newer seller cannot compare themselves to someone like the dollar box. Not because one is better than the other, but because the businesses are in different stages, different volume, different systems, different risk tolerance, and different margins for error. Stage mismatch creates unnecessary pressure. You copy strategies that only work at scale. You feel behind when you're actually right on time. You judge yourself using someone else's scoreboard. And in truth, different stages require different strategies. What works early often breaks at scale. What works at scale often fails early on. If I wanted this to feel easier, I'd stop asking, why don't my results look like theirs? And start asking, what does progress look like at my stage? The fourth thing that I'd stop doing is treating every decision like it's permanent. We act like every buy, every price, and every strategy locks us in forever. And that turns small decisions into very heavy ones. But the reality is, most decisions in this hobby are reversible. Prices change, listings end, inventory moves, and strategies adjust. Most decisions are really just experiments, not commitments. Progress doesn't come from always choosing correctly. It comes from choosing, observing, and then adjusting. When you stop treating every decision like it defines you, you give yourself room to breathe. And breathing room makes everything feel lighter. After all the things I'd stop doing, here's some things that I would keep. I'd keep buying with intention. I'd keep leaving margin, not for greed, but for some room. Room to wait, room to be wrong, and room to not panic. I'd keep letting things sell in their own time. I'd keep accepting uncertainty. And I'd keep protecting the part of this that's still enjoyable. The goal was never to remove effort, it was to remove regret. Making this feel easier doesn't lower your standards, it raises your awareness. And awareness creates control. If this feels harder than it needs to be, that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It usually means you've learned enough to start letting go. The grind isn't required, it's accumulated. You don't have to overcheck everything. You don't have to hold inventory just to feel safe. You don't have to chase every new thing. You don't have to compete with sellers in other stages. And you don't have to treat every decision like it defines you. Letting go doesn't make you less serious. It makes you more experienced. Pick one habit you're ready to stop, just for now, and see how it feels. Easier isn't a dirty word. Calmer isn't quitting. Sustainable was the goal all along. I want to thank everyone for spending a little time with me today. If this episode hits close to home, hit that like button and let me know in the comments which habit you're ready to let go of. And don't forget, join us every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central for the Dollar Box Live. 2 hours of news, nonsense, and knowledge with myself and Adam from the Dollar Box. So until next time, make it calmer, make it cleaner, and let it be easier.